The one with the fertility test is the 21st episode of the 9th season of Friends. This is directed by Gary Halvorson, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And as usual, I will talk about each part of the narrative in turn. I will talk about Joey and Ross first of all, and then Rachel and Phoebe, and then Chandler and Monica. And unusually, I think everybody pretty much had an equal weight in terms of the narrative. Everybody had an important role to play, and there are some moments towards the end that are so moving and so powerful, and I'll talk about that when we get there. So we do catch up at the beginning in Central Park regarding Joey and Charlie kissing, and then Joey and Charlie come into Central Park confirming that it wasn't just a kiss. They are now, I guess, dating. And Charlie, to her credit, actually apologises to Ross because she worried it had maybe made him uncomfortable. It was a bit awkward. Joey keeps trying to use acrimonious in a sentence. And then Joey actually offers to be her tour guide. And they're talking about where to go. And there's some confusion regarding the Met versus the Mets. And it's very clear. I don't think we needed this to be spelled out, to be fair. But it is very clear that Joey is not the usual kind of person Charlie dates. And this could work either way. It could be a refreshing change, or they could just not be compatible. And I think Joey really feels this because he asks Ross for help because he doesn't want to look stupid in front of Charlie while he's wearing 2 belts. The randomness of that. They're in Central Park and Joey says to Ross, I don't want to look stupid. And there's just the teeniest of pauses. And Ross just responds with, are you wearing 2 belts? It's very random, and the delivery was fantastic, and Joey's response was brilliant. And credit to Ross, he does help Joey. He does help him out. And we have this really funny scene where Joey is trying to memorize things to say at the museum, which is a lot of fun, very well written. And then sometime later, Charlie and Ross are in Central Park, and Charlie points out that Joey was saying a lot of great things, but it didn't make a lot of sense. And we learned that this is because Joey took a left instead of taking a right. So he wasn't actually looking at the paintings he was meant to be looking at, which I thought was rather entertaining. And Charlie then tells Ross that she's having fun with Joey, but maybe Joey isn't right for her. And Ross says Joey's a good guy. Give him another chance. And that's incredibly selfless of Ross. That's a really great thing for him to do. That being said, I think it's very clear, never say never, but it's very clear that Joey and Charlie probably wouldn't have that much in common. I don't think they'd be very compatible long term. So by encouraging Charlie to continue dating Joey, it's kind of just setting him up for more heartache down the line. So on the one hand, it was a very selfless thing for Ross to do, but at the same time, I don't necessarily think it was the right decision. But I can't fault Ross. I think he was really great in this episode because it was clearly something that was very difficult for him to see, but it proves that he really cares about Joey, which is nice. And it also shows that Joey is also willing to work at a relationship because he's putting in so much effort just because these things were important to Charlie. And I think Ross actually pointed that out at one point. So it's sweet, it's nice. I don't think it's the best approach for anybody to be taking, but it is nice to see. We then come to Rachel and Phoebe. Rachel has a gift certificate for a spa, but she can't show it to Phoebe because she hates those big massage places. And then Phoebe sees it and rips it up. And the next thing we know, Rachel has sticky taped the gift certificate back together and goes to the spa, and Phoebe works there because she needs the money, which is absolutely fair enough. And Rachel is her client. So she tells Rachel to put her face in the hole, and she goes in with a fake Swedish accent and calls herself IKEA, and Rachel immediately notices Phoebe's shoes, but doesn't give the game away, and instead she starts to talk about her, and I quote, such callousy fingers from playing crummy guitar. And the reveal, the moment where Phoebe realises that Rachel knows it's her, was just absolutely brilliant, and it's really well delivered and really good fun. And the moral of the story is don't lie, and also don't feel too guilty if you have to go in against your morals to make a living, because yes, Phoebe doesn't think that these places are great because they're putting people like her out of business, but at the same time she's still employed, she's still getting a wage, she's still getting paid for this, And that, is more important, keeping a roof over your head. And I think that Phoebe was able to realise that, particularly when Rachel encouraged her to quit and to stick to her morals. And it became clear to us that Phoebe wasn't going to do that. And I think Phoebe made the right decision. I don't think she made the right decision in not telling Rachel the truth the second time, because Rachel then comes back and now she puts on a Scottish accent, which, being Scottish, I rather enjoyed. So I think there are some great messages there, and I just really like how it played out. And then we come to Chandler and Monica. And there are definitely some funny moments here, but this topic is a lot more serious. I think it's a lot more important, and it's very moving. They're having some fertility tests done, and Chandler is given a little cup, and he has to go and deposit his specimen just as Janice appears, which is not what he wants. And I have to say, she was quick with the jokes, referring to the fact that they gave him the kiddie-sized cup. And then, credit to her, Chandler came back from depositing his specimen, and Janet was waiting for her husband. And Chandler admits that he starts to feel anxious because he hadn't really thought about the test results. He was just thinking about doing the actual test or depositing his specimen, and then he'd worry about the results later. And Janice says some really comforting things, and she's there to support him while he waits for Monica, which I thought was a really nice thing to include. It shows that there are different sides to Janice, which is always really nice. And then back at the apartment, Chandler is on his own, and he gets the phone call, and it's a really, really difficult scene to watch, because he gets the call and he jokes, should I be sitting down for this? And there's a brief pause, and all he says is, oh. And in that oh, there is somehow so many emotions, but also an absence of emotions, as it's very clear he doesn't know how he himself wants to respond in that situation. And it's just one of the most powerful O's I've ever heard. And then Monica comes in immediately after, and she gets a little bit hysterical, panicky once Chandler says that they'd phoned. And what I love about this, I think this was a really, really good decision. It turns out there are problems with both of them. Chandler has low motility sperm, and Monica has an inhospitable environment. I really like the fact that they didn't just say, not to place blame, of course, but they didn't just say, well, it's because of Chandler or it's because of Monica. I like the fact that it was both of them, and they were both in this together, and it's so emotional, and it's heartbreaking and so powerful. And it's rare to get such negative news in a sitcom that isn't when somebody has died. It's really, really well done, very effective, and I have nothing but praise for it. And I have nothing but praise for how Chandler handled the situation as well. Usually Chandler, when he's uncomfortable, he'll try and make some awkward jokes, and I don't fault him for that. I think it's part of his character, and it works well. But on this occasion, Chandler and, of course, the writers realised we just need to be blunt, we need to be honest, we don't want to put in jokes to try and lighten the mood, let's just let the heaviness sit. And I think they did a fantastic job with it. So certainly a very, very, very moving scene, very, very well done, and I have a lot of praise for how Chandler handled things. Obviously, a lot of comedy in the episode, very funny, certainly with Rachel and Phoebe. That was just light-hearted humour. We get to see Ross behaving mostly selflessly, although, as I said, I don't really think encouraging the relationship is the best idea, because I just don't think it would go anywhere, and it's setting Joy up for heartache. But then again, never say never, because sometimes opposites do attract. So it's not Ross's fault, but personally, I just didn't think it was the best idea. And again, credit to Joy for going above and beyond to try and make Charlie happy by showing he's taking an interest. And then, of course, Chandler and Monica, it's just fabulous. And massive credit to Janice as well. The one with the fertility test is a really solid episode of Friends.